Oh, I had a pen. I need a pen.
I wake up to days where I just don't know what's in store for me when I walk out the door. Still I yawn and stretch, brush my hair, get showered and dressed, try to relax my mind, just take it slow. Pull up the blinds to the whole wide world outside my window. Watch the people walk by on a clueless stroll. My heart is heavy and my mind is frayed.
Grand Rising, it's your girl Diva Ebony B. I am your humble host. I got my co-host with me today, Miss Angie B, live in the building right here on Diva Spot Podcast Lounge. This is the Glow Up Show, the men's mental health session, and we are grateful that you guys are here. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the YouTube page so you can know when the next Glow Up is going to be. We have the honor of having some special guests on today. Now, ladies, we told y'all that we was going to give y'all some tools and we was going to sit back and hear from the men so we can go into 2025 and beyond and make sure we have the tools to make sure all the kings and queens is really together. So I am honored to have Mr. Trent Brown here and Mr. Thomas here today. They are going to help us glow up. Now, when you guys hear glow up, you only think about the ladies, right? But it ain't just for the ladies, it's for the men too. The men are out here glowing up, and we are going to get some tools today. I'm going to throw it over to Angie because I'm just so excited for her to be here. And again, Angie, thank you for this really, really dope idea to do this men's mental session for the men. It is really making a big difference in my life.
Thank you, Diva Ebony, and good morning. And thank you for being open to have this show. I mean, while it's important to talk about mental health and deal with it, we do have the Glow Up Show. It's important that we also have a space where the men can come and share in a safe, open space, and that we can get not just jewels from them, but get their perspective without interjecting on it. And this is a topic that's passionate to me because I think in order for us to coexist and live in harmony, we have to have space for each other. There's so much focus on, women glowing up and on us being able to get, mental health services and being able to seek out mental health and deal with our emotions and all the things that, come along. One of the privileges we do have as women, right, is that we get to explore that. And so it's really important that we also, because we have a platform to be able to share it with the men and coexist and heal side by side and together, right? In a collaborative, healing's not a competition. So I'm just really excited to talk about this, and especially from the point of view of, formerly incarcerated gentlemen and, post-incarcerated men that have lived through the experience and are actually successful in living abundant lives, because a lot of times, we don't get to hear about, what they've done post. All the focus is on what they've been in trouble with and, what charges they've gotten. Oh, everybody's the F word. The F word's felony, right? Everybody's they're all the F word. But there are men like Threat and Thomas who are adding value to the community, even post incarceration. So I'm excited to hear their stories of where they were, where they've been, and, what tools would have supported them better or at all. And, where they were able to start and where they're able to go. So let's open up our first topic. And I believe that we are So the first topic that we are going to go into is really just talking about, their journeys. So I'm going to throw it over to Thomas first. So I know that you're years past it, but can you talk to the people about what your experience was like and what state your mental health was in, before you went in, when you went in, and what would have supported you better?
And Thomas, for those who don't know who you are, could you just give us a brief introduction about you? And, for those who have not had the opportunity to experience your greatness and what you're doing inside and outside of the community, could you just go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for having me on this morning. It's truly a blessing to be here with y'all and Threat. So many great minds talking about this, and it's such an important topic. My name is Thomas DiGiorgio. I'm a formerly incarcerated individual. I'm also a U.S. Army veteran who served in Iraq from 2003 to 2005. Saw multiple deployments in combat, was in combat, was injured, and 100% disabled since I was 21 years of age. I ended up, when I came home, getting lost in the VA backlog, trying to get mental health assistance, trying to get physical disability assistance. It took about 7.5 years to finally service Connect. During that time, I was just a lost kid looking for a purpose, doing a lot of stuff I shouldn't have been doing and hanging out with the wrong people. 10 years ago, this year, I made a choice off of not receiving those services, not receiving help, not receiving the support I needed from really a broken family, a broken system in the VA, a broken military at the time. And I was convicted of a felony. I lost everything in my life, including my best friend, my home, and everything within it. And ended up fighting our justice system inside of the prison to try to retain some of my constitutional rights. When I was inside of prison, I had the opportunity, based on being in the military, to go and receive an associate's degree from Clover Park Technical College. And I just started helping people kind of, fill out FAFSAs and get admissions into community colleges. So then when I released at Tacoma Community College. It was 5 minutes late, first day, changing in the car from Aberdeen all the way to Tacoma. And it was months later, I ended up finding Ben Feldbush and Threat Brown doing just great things in the community. Now it's been 10 years. I work for the state as someone who does all the recruiting. We're formerly incarcerated veterans in IT services. Shout out to the Employment Security Department. And a lot of my success, a lot of the tools that gave me that rise, that fire, was higher education. I mentioned that I met Threat at Tacoma Community College. Ben Feldbush, another incredible rock star in this Pierce County community that we have in Washington. And, it came down to serving others, showing others our story, showing others that they were worthy, not hiding underneath society's depression of not having housing, not having a job, restricting us from car insurance, life insurance, all of it. And I think the biggest thing for me that is always a triumph that I talk about is I went through a very life-changing experience being homeless. During that time I met Threat. I was living in my car on the TCC campus, showering in the newly built gyms, and founded a nonprofit organization, Student Veterans at Tacoma Community College. It was later recognized by Washington, D.C. under Student Veterans America. And the very next year, I was chosen as one of the top 100 student veteran leaders in the United States by former President George W. Bush. I just started accelerating from there, went to the University of Washington, led them to national championships 4 times in a row. This year, they were also nominated, and I hope that they get nominated for one of the best chapters of the year. I say that because higher education was the common thread. Community members such as Threat and Ben, other men who supported me, who had been formerly incarcerated or had been justice impacted, they were there to model ourselves for others, to pull ourselves away from the main media, and to take away a lot of the toxic masculinity that we see, that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So it's okay to talk to other individuals about your experience, connect, and form that community. So that's a little bit about me. I'm so grateful to be here and share more experiences.
Well, damn.
Right? I told you he had an incredible story.
That's wow. I mean, I'm grateful to hear that. And I'm grateful what you said about higher education. Like, no matter what you've been through, like, you just went forward and you honed in and you educated yourself and was able to create a law and change these things that came about. And that was a lot of hard work. I guess my one question that I have for this is, how did you stay focused?
Exactly.
I didn't, right? I didn't. We all are lost in the sauce. We all are lost souls in this ether. And if I had to point it to anything, it's community, right? The student veterans that I participated with, that I led, that I followed, I became a servant leader to, right? And in return, all of them became servant leaders back. That focus, that energy, that pushback of all working for ourselves in a common community. I can still see threat at a job fair. I can still see threat out in the community. We slap hands, give each other this huge hug. And it could be years that we haven't seen each other. But that family, that community, that support, it's something that just runs eternally.
I love it. Well, thank you.
Same question for threat that we asked Thomas.
So yeah, again, like my brother Thomas said, I appreciate you guys for allowing us the opportunity to share just the experience for this whole mindset piece. You know, mental health is a real thing. To be able to express and talk about these things a lot, especially with people that truly believe in what we're talking about and what we're doing, and not just looking for an underlying agenda. That's why I feel like you guys are so genuine with the platform. So, one, it's an honor to be here with you guys, and I appreciate it a lot. My brother Thomas, bro, you already know you're an amazing dude since we met day one. And I'll never forget that. And I always look forward to continuing to build in our own capacity, you know. So I thank you for being here too, bro. And a bit about me, you know, I was formerly incarcerated. I was released in 2005. So this date, honestly, my 20th year of being free from the institution. And the thing about my background, I come from a small town. In my town, it's about 600 people. You know, so I'm from a small city. I mean, a small village is what they call it, Pleasant Hill, Louisiana. And I grew up being raised by my mother, and I got 3 sisters. So I never had the brotherhood camaraderie growing up. So that's one thing that was absent from my life. And one of the things that stood out the most as far as the male figures in my life was 2 of my dear uncles who are currently living right now and doing their, who was also formerly incarcerated. And I got one uncle that did like 27 years. He was shot 15 times by the police in New Orleans, Louisiana. Then I had another uncle that was doing 19 years off and on. And so those was the examples of my life growing up, you know. And when me as a kid from the ages of 5 and up, those men inspired me to want to be like them. And as odd as it is, from the age of 8, I always wanted to know what prison experience was like, because the people that I loved the most and the people that, you know, had an impact and impression on my life, this is the only thing that I knew of them. So I wanted to experience at 8 years old. And I vividly remember it. You know, I remember it like it was something I truly want to do. And so in 1999, I had my opportunity to see what the prison life was about. Just like Brother Thomas said, you know, associating with the wrong group of people. And I won't say the wrong group of people, associating with the people that I thought I was supposed to be associating myself. I thought that was a norm. And so I ended up being confined. And in my 4 years of incarceration, year 1, I realized this is not what I want to do, you know. And it was better for me to have experienced that for the 4 years versus the 8 years that they was trying to give me, or getting caught up for a life sentence on the things that I'm doing and never got caught for, you know. So throughout my prison experience, I had a self-reflection opportunity, speaking to some of the most powerfulest men I've ever met, some of the most powerfulest men that I probably never see again in a day in my life. And I started to educate myself off of my own lived experience. And so when I was released from prison, you know, school was never on my mind. I never cared about school. I dropped out of school in the 8th grade. You know, I gave up on school real early. And in that experience, you know, like a lot of brothers that come from the same cloth that I come from, you know, we found ourselves taking penitentiary chances, life and death chances every single day as if it was a normal thing. And we didn't know the difference until we seen so many of our friends get killed and murdered or locked up. And then we start to reflect on this can't be something that we're supposed to be focused on or doing. And so me looking around, my true responsibility came from me getting guardianship of 3 of my nephews, you know, and which is a story in itself. But I'm saying all of this because even as we have this conversation, is a lot of this stuff is even hard to talk about, you know, as often as I've talked about it. And, you know, and now that I'm focusing a lot on myself and really sitting with myself, I realize how heavy my issues became and what I really go through, because I've been putting so much time and energy in other people and making sure everybody else was all right. I've never took the time to really focus on me. And so this space right now is strange and a different space. So I'm really focusing on the things to stay, to talk through my truth of individuality right now. So as we break this experience down, I appreciate it, man. I'll talk more about it, but yeah, almost a typical young Black dude coming from this stuff, man, trying to figure it out. And now that I have a firm foot on the ground, I want to grow in that and expand. And it comes from relationships. And I do appreciate meeting Thomas at TCC, because if I never went to the school, I never would have met a brother like that. And I would have never had the opportunity to truly create a brotherhood. That way I don't be harmed by my surroundings. I'm able to really grow with a group of brothers now and see what living life truly is about. So that's my spiel for the moment.
Well, thank you, Threat, for sharing, and thank you, Thomas, for sharing that. It's your girl, your humble host, Diva Ebony B. I'm here live with my beautiful co-host, Angie B. We got the kings in the building. Mr. Threat Brown and Mr. Thomas is here. We're talking about men's mental health. Make sure you comment while you're here on YouTube. Share with another man. Share with another king, because we need to hear this. A big shout out to my brother. He couldn't make the show today, but he's well on his way with the children. And I love that. And I love we did, breaking the cycles of men's mental health, incarceration, and rebuilding life. And I'm getting an opportunity to see him rebuild life. He was incarcerated at the age of 18. How ironically, his co-defendant is my son's uncle. Me and his father weren't even together at that time, but they smoked their boots out there. What we would say on the East Coast, they smoked their boots. They were 18 years old, and they was sending them upstate, trying to send them upstate for 12 years for a robbery. And my brother was with my son's uncle at the time, and my son's uncle decided to rob a kid for a radio. He didn't know this was going to happen, but because he was with him, Hudson County in New Jersey, aka Hostage County, decided that you are an accessory to this crime. So from the tender age of 18, he had been in and out of the system, and that's his story to share. But I get to see him be a father on today. I get to see him be a brother, and I see sometimes how he kind of gets uncomfortable, but I'm too goofy for him to stay uncomfortable. So it's a beautiful thing, and I really wanted to bring this up and share this really quick. The journey of healing and breaking generational curses, awareness and acknowledgement. And here's a few tidbits that we can use, and I wanted to share in the affirmation. It says, reflect on past experiences, family patterns, and behaviors that may have been passed down. Some of the men, a lot of the men have had patterns and things passed down to them that they didn't even realize were toxic or things that were negative. The next thing is recognize how these patterns impact your emotions, your decisions, and your relationships today. There is something that you can do. Journaling or therapy can help bring clarity to hidden cycles. I love that one. And here's the affirmation. I see the cycles that I need to change, and I am ready to begin the journey. And I love the little pieces coming out of the man's head, because sometimes that's what it looks like when we're talking. So it's so many different pieces. You guys women are very unique. It can be complex, but men are very unique, and they have really complex thinking. And sometimes we want to understand when you're withdrawn and when you're just sitting there, you're not saying nothing, and we see the little puzzles all over your head. but we want to help you put it back together. But sometimes it's not even our responsibility to help you put this back together. It's just for us to be a warm and safe space. So I wanted to, just jump into that part of that, and I'll throw it over to you, Thomas. We're just talking about, your healing process. What are some of the things that you start to become aware of and acknowledge that helped you make such an incredible change in progress in your life?
Brett said it the best, right? Brett said it the best. I was giving so much to so many other people. I had mentioned that I had started an organization at TCC, then led on to the University of Washington Tacoma. I was also doing 2 other nonprofits in the background as well. Mission Continues, Travis Manning Foundation, just the list goes on and on and on, right? But like Brett said, there was a moment where I had to focus on myself. I had to realize that being a 9th grade dropout, Brett mentioned 8th grade, 9th grade dropout with a GED, and then joining the Army, that like a runaway child for my mom, at the age of 15, like I had severe emotional trauma as a child. And when I joined the military, it was 6 months later, I was in country kicking indoors at the SWAT team for a year and a half, right? And then I come home with all this emotional trauma. I'm left for 7 years and then become incarcerated. Duh. Right? It wasn't until I started staring at myself in the mirror where I started having that prison experience. And unfortunately, that was kind of a tipping point. I remember being incarcerated. There was this guy who was my cellie in county. He'd been there like 37 times for DUIs. I mean, dude was just happy to be there. And his philosophy was a little different. Like, he didn't have to pay bills. There was no responsibility. Like, he was juking society. And I remember standing in the mirror going, this can't be me. And the guy was like, what do you mean it can't be you? Like, who did you think was in prison? Just like you, right? And it was that click. It was that moment where I was like, damn, I did this, right? And I started to focus on myself and those tools that I needed. It wasn't, psychotherapy. I needed that professionally from military, but it was a brotherhood. I grew up with sisters, right? I grew up with one full-blooded sister, and it was a protector role. And, unfortunately, I had watched my mom through domestic violence my entire life and was a child who would always jump in front of my mom. And here I was, the one being convicted of domestic violence, after walking on significant other. So it was this real chunk change myself, right? This real gut check, like, this is me, and I don't want to be this. This is not what I want to show my children, right? And I'm blessed now to have a 5-year-old son. I had mentioned that I started a business a little earlier in the show. I had actually lost my first son in 2019, my senior year. His name was Atticus. He was born 16 weeks early and died in my hands, right? And it wasn't until that moment where I started really drawing on who I was as a man, right? And not the toxic man, like be tough and walk around with a chip on my shoulder, but like the compassionate, like I have issues, I have problems. I'm willing to seek those truths. I'm willing to burn the bridges that aren't good bridges and start building good bridges with people who actually care and will emotionally support me in that path.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. And a lot of different situations in life will cause you to have that moment of clarity and even just carrying the trauma. And men, you guys, now you are, and I'm grateful for that, because we was like, the men don't talk, and the men are talking, honey. And some of the ladies are uncomfortable, but sis, in order for us to get better, we have to be uncomfortable, and we have to sit in a place and of accountability for the part that we have played. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Thread, I'll ask you the same question. And then Angie, I'll throw it over to you. What was the healing process? What was your awareness and your acknowledgement to say, hey, I gotta do something about what I'm doing out here? How did you hold yourself accountable in that area?
All right, so I'm gonna say the thing that really got me to pull myself together, because when I first got out, I had a mission. I wanted to go to LA. I wanted to go to all of these different locations of areas of violence because I couldn't be in Tacoma. I I didn't feel comfortable being in Tacoma, but I couldn't be somewhere where I didn't blend in, with how I had a huge chip on my shoulder when I got out, so the environments that I ended up going to was like a little bit worse than Tacoma, but it made me feel comfortable. And I normalized the fact having to be surrounded by chaos in order for me to feel okay for the moment, and so me doing that for a series of years, it kept me in situations, it kept me living the same life, if you will, for the most part, because I was trying to adjust to who I wanted to become, but I had to sit with what I believe I needs to be. The old habits is hard to break kind of thing. And so it wasn't until my sister, honestly, my sister gave me my first opportunity to sit down. And so she contacted me at 3:00 in the morning one day from Texas. And she was like, bro, your nephews they're a handful right now. And at the time it was 13, 15, and 16. And then so she blessed me with the opportunity to be in care of these great young dudes. And at the time I didn't have no kids, And so I was like, what am I supposed to do, with 3 young men, me flipping them, I'm going all over the place, and so that sat me down. And I had a huge responsibility. I was responsible for 3 young men that was growing up the same way that I grew up. And I had to use everything that I thought about doing when I was younger. I had to provide that knowledge to these young men and help guide them to step like I did, And so my sister in 2012, that was the first moment of, all right, use time to structure and put yourself together. But even in that moment, I realized for those from 2012 all the way to 2020, if you will, it wasn't even about me still. So I still never put no focus and no time and energy on myself as well, because now my understanding of clarity, my understanding of what is an opportunity became, how do I bless these young men with an opportunity, which was not living in a life forever and trying to be the best version of the uncle that I could possibly be, was how do I instill into these young men in case something was to happen to me? How do I pour into the community in case something happens to a person that want to truly give back? And so I made it a mission to just keep sharing what I knew, sharing what I should have done, and in hopes that somebody receives it, right? And so then I have a son, then my son came into my life, that became such a big divide too, because, it's a long history story. And one day, hopefully we could talk about, this relationship with fathers and their sons, and the slice between connecting pieces, and so now what do I do now? I've just, in the last 15 years, from 2012 up until about 2 months ago, it's starting to become about me again, and this is uncomfortable. I get anxiety. I ain't never knew I had anxiety, I've been waking up in cold sweats for the last week and a half, weeks, confused, like I'm on my own 2 feet right now. Now it's like I got to start doing for myself, and this is so unfamiliar. And so I'm dealing with confusement, but I know, like with brothers like Thomas, I know that I got bros that I can lean on. So when y'all ask what are the things that's going on, now I'm like, what is going on? This is new. To thinking about me is new. Now I realize that I'm a broken community in myself. I'm a whole broken community. All of this work that I've been doing, avoid my own circumstances, avoid my own opportunities, possibilities. Now I'm my own candidate. I'm my own project. You know what I'm saying? And so how do I pour what I've been pouring into everybody else into myself, and it don't feel right? But I know that, with platforms, it's allowing me to be expressive and share, and then know that I ain't alone when I listen to brothers like Thomas, that there's ways that we can apply our truth of knowledge to ourselves. And as long as I got soundboards, like, that I can trust, like I'm telling y'all, Ed, we talked a little bit on the phone last night, man. And it was such an eye-opener to me that for the first time since prison, look, this is crazy. For the first time since prison, I'm actually focusing on myself since about a month ago. Focusing on myself. So what does it look like? I'm figuring it out right now. And this is a duel between threat, Brown, and threat, how do you build yourself up? And I'm doing pretty good now. I journal, I wrote, I just finished my first book, and I'm excited about that. That's my first accomplishment that I've done for myself since incarceration, and since I've been releasing myself, living and learning, man. And the mechanics going to still put themselves together. And for women that see us focusing on things, like you say, just be that feminine energy that you were saying last night. Be the nurturing, kind person, because I don't know how to do that for myself sometimes. Now that I'm realizing, I don't even know what that looks like. Everything that I've learned about mental health and trauma informed, to me right now sounds confusing and blurry because I got to apply that stuff to myself. Now I got to start listening to what I keep telling everybody else and see if the shit really works. Excuse my French. Now I got to see if the words that we put out work on yourself. And I see that Thomas is a living example that what we've learned and what we've shared in the community can be applied to ourselves. And I'm here to see what that looks like for me so I can truly see what my powers and my growth is.
Wow. That's 100
Powerful.
right there. And you know what? I definitely agree with you. And I did want to say this piece right here that I'm learning. Men don't get the opportunity to just take care of themselves. Once you get a family and some kids and people are dependent on you, you guys don't get the luxury of saying, oh, I need a mental health day. Oh, I need a break. Oh, I need to relax. And it'll come from society, but it also comes from yourself. Like, I don't deserve to have this day for myself, or I don't deserve to take out this time and just go to the restaurant and get me something to eat. Like, you start to feel guilty. And then when you succeed in certain things and you see there's a such thing as called survivor's guilt. I had that too, but I'm starting to realize that we need to provide more safe spaces for you guys, because it was that ongoing joke like Father's Day is the less celebrated day, and it shouldn't be. Father's Day is an incredible day. Like, shout out to Tupac. He said, a man has the right to tell a woman when and where to create one. We cannot create without a man, even if they get the artificial insemination or whatever, but we still need. And men are very valuable. You guys, let me say this to you both. You're valuable. You're loved. You're needed. I need you. I need you to show up as your authentic self every day. And don't feel guilty for doing something for you. Threat, this is going to feel weird. It's going to feel like you got a wedgie all the time because you've been so used to putting your focus on others, and now you have to deal. And let's not say deal. Now you get to enjoy you and see the things that you have been putting in the community to make, like you said, to see if it works. And don't be afraid to say it how I hear it. Don't get the imposter syndrome. This ain't what this for. It has been working. You've seen it work for other people. It'll work for you. And Angie, I'm gonna throw it over to you, love, before we take a short commercial break.
Yeah, so I do appreciate both Threat and Thomas, being vulnerable and being willing to come on the show, and their faces are, not just being shown to us, but our viewers as well. And I want to touch on a couple things that they both said. Thomas talked about his upbringing and watching, witnessing domestic violence in his house and having to be the protector. And then Threat talking about how he wanted to experience prison because the people that he did look up to, that's what they were doing. So it was normalized, even though it was subconscious for him. And I wanted to touch on that because I've heard, not just in community, but, the gentlemen talk about toxic masculinity, and me and you talk all the time. And actually, I think I've had this conversation with Thomas too. I actually feel like a lot of behavior that's considered toxic masculinity. You see my bunny ears. I really feel like that's actually wounding. There's a lot of wounding that happens for little boys coming up, and a lot of what they're talking about is survival mode. You don't get the luxury of being able to tap into how you're feeling. And so you grow up in survival mode. And really, when you're taught to suppress your emotion, you're really taught to be disconnected from yourself. Yeah. And being You're taught to be disconnected from your human experience as a man. I say all the time, if you were born with a nervous system, and I haven't heard a story of anybody who wasn't so far, then you experience and you express emotions. And that's something that's denied to little boys. I mean, people are starting to come into the awareness now, and it's starting to flip. But back when, Thomas and Threat and you and I were growing up, that's not wellness is not a luxury, right? And part of being able to emotionally regulate and deal with all those emotions, and like Threat said, this is all new to him. It's going to be, because you've been in survival mode for, I don't know how old you are, but 30, 40 years you've been in survival mode. And when you're providing and you're doing all of these things, like you said, you never really had a chance to sit down and consider yourself. And I do want to share a couple pieces of information. There was an article that came out in 2024, going back to the prison experience, where they talked about, so people in prison have higher rates of mental illness, infectious diseases, and poor physical health. And some of those mental illnesses or mental diagnoses that people in prison and that are diagnosed with are PTSD, depression, and, as Threat mentioned, anxiety. And so when you don't know what that feels like in your body, you just want to get out of prison, or you're just in survival mode. Everything is a fight. Everything feels, you're in fight or flight all the time. So coming out of that, it's almost like, what people say about losing weight, right? It's like you didn't gain the weight overnight, so you're not going to lose it overnight. You've been in, you guys have been in, and you guys have been able to, make successful and good choices for your lives. But the reality is you've been in survival mode for 30 or 40 years, so you're not going to get out of it overnight. And the fact is, you still have to learn the tools. You have to get comfortable with the tools in order to be successful. And I like that Ebony shared that affirmation and talking about going back to your experiences and what your trauma is like. And a lot of it, I think that there is a big focus on trauma and is important, but a lot of it for us as people of color, as men, as, all these different demographics, things that are supposed to be traumatic, those things don't register as trauma. They're just shitty life experiences. Excuse my French, right? So we're just talking about processing horrible life circumstances. And when you get places, because prison did the same thing COVID did, kind of, even you're still confined, right? So a lot of people I've heard say the same thing, that, COVID allowed them to sit with themselves. Prison definitely allows you to sit with yourself, right? And really, when you are in a space, when you have to deal with yourself, you have choices to make. And it sounds like in those moments when these beautiful, lovely, productive, formerly incarcerated gentlemen that are sitting before us have had, a chance to make good choices for themselves, there's a fork in the road. And you get to decide, like Thomas was saying earlier, whether I'm just going to continue the pattern and keep putting myself in a situation, right? Or I'm going to make a choice here. And this is where I pivot and I can have a life. And I think that it's important for the young men that are watching our show, or men that are in any point in the pipeline of, whether they're just getting out, whether they're still in, whatever it is, that things can still turn around for them. And I think that's the most important part of what they're sharing. And there's a lot of space where I think that us as women, we want to tell men how they feel or decipher what they're saying and speak for them. And I think it's really, and I get it. You know what I mean? A lot of us have had experiences where that's what we're going to do, but it's really, really important for us to be quiet sometimes, because we don't have all the answers. And the way that we nurture sometimes is to be active listeners and not try to fix. Just be active listeners and be a safe container for them to be able to say what they need to say and not judge, and go in with an open mind and ask, as we will later on, the best way for us to support. And so the other thing I wanted to say is, post-incarceration, another article had come out and said that in the general population, and there was a psychiatry article that came out that we talked about the most common mental health challenges being depression, PTSD, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, being in a violent and dehumanizing environment. And there's a stat that came out that was saying that men have like a higher rate of suicide than women do. post incarceration, and this is without even being locked up. So can you imagine? And then the people that had pre-existing mental health challenges that weren't diagnosed before they went in, and so all of those things factor in. And I just wanted to highlight that, and again, thank the gentleman for being on and being willing to highlight these areas for us and talk about their own personal experience, because it's important to highlight it.
Thank you, Angie, for that. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back. This is the Glow Up Show, Men's Mental Health Session with our special guests, Threat Brown and Mr. Thomas. Let's go.
Young, black, and gold. Young, black, and free. Young, black, and proud. Young, black is me. Young, black, and gifted. Young, black, and gold. Young, black, and powerful. So the story is told. Black and gold is we, black is beautiful. Gold is what they want, gold is what we are. African diaspora, the history start with us. Distant relatives afar, deep measure, maybe audit. Young, black and gold. Young, black and gold. Young, black and gold. We come from royalty. We are some kings and queens. Don't let them teach you other knowledge roots the tree. No need to hate each other. Let's find some unity. Let's organize for wealth with our communities. Young, black and gold. Young, black and gold. I had to keep it Frank L. in just like Aretha and meet it through the speaker.
Welcome back, you guys. We're going deep into this session with the Men's Mental Health on the Glow Up Show. Threat and Mr. Thomas is here breaking it down for us. And ladies, I you know what, guys, I really enjoy being in my feminine energy. And you guys said a word that hasn't triggered me, but it's survival mode. And shout out to my husband, love you, hubby, Mr. Dwayne Moss, up in this piece. I am grateful that you loved me out of survivor mode, because I was a mover and shaker. I had to, me being in control made me feel safe. And I felt like I had to control everything because I was living in Newark, New Jersey, dealing with crime, gang banging, drugs, robbery, break-ins. I was part of it. It was just one of those things, and I became very controlling, and it came out that I learned that I was being very codependent on my family, controlling my environment because it made me feel safe. And then I came to realize, and God showed me, you ain't in control of nothing. There is nothing. You have no control. You have no control over your life, your husband, your kids, your finances, nothing. You are just here participating. So you need to make sure that me and you got a relationship with each other. But that survivor word came up, and I realized that I have been loved out of survivor mode. We just celebrated 8 years in November of this year.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And I'm grateful that this man took this time. He didn't have to. He could have been like, yo, you wilding. You a wild chick. I don't have the patience for this. But he's seen a value in me. And he valued me. And he's seen a value that I didn't even see in myself. So I got to give credit to you guys now for dealing with our broken pieces, dealing with our hurt when you don't have to. Ladies, they don't have to. Regardless if we have children, they don't have to. And Angie, you said something that was very profound to me. I said a lot of times women will say that they have issues with their men or their husbands, but what they actually have issues is with their unmet needs as a child. And certain things I was going through, my husband had nothing to do with it. But I was blaming him like, but it was my unmet need, and I was responsible for taking care of that. So I want to give you kings your flowers now or give you your crowns now as we move on to the next segment and situation. And get comfortable, y'all. Y'all at home. You at home at Diva Spot. It's a lounge. So, you can go ahead and relax your shoulders if you want to. And, wiggle it a little bit. Do one of these. I want to move on to the next thing because I do want to respect your time. I know that you guys are super busy. Self-compassion and inner work. Approach the process with love and patience for yourself. Address unhealed wounds through therapy, support groups, and spiritual practices. Practice mindfulness, meditation, and prayer to build emotional resilience. And the affirmation is, I am worthy of healing, and I give myself grace on this journey. And if you guys would like to repeat that, say that. I am worthy of healing, and I give myself grace on this journey. I give it to yourself. Don't wait for us, y'all. Just give us yourself.
I wanted to touch on something. So, thank you for sharing the affirmations because they do. I feel like they do need to hear that. They do need to hear the affirmations, and really just get the support. And I know that we're talking about, mental health and how important that is. You need it while you're incarcerated. You need it when you get out. One of the things that impacts, when you're going in and when you get out is the family dynamic and the impact on your family. A lot of these men are sole providers. Like Threat just said earlier that he was responsible for his nephews at some point in his journey. And, there are men who go to prison or jail and they are the sole providers for their family. Some of them have partners. Some of them have kids. Some of them it's parents, or there's other family members or other circumstances where this man might be the sole provider for his family. And so when you go in, I'm sure, and I actually hear men talk about it, and because you know that I lead that group on Wednesdays. I work with the men in recovery, and we have our group sessions on Wednesday, and a lot of what they talk about just in group, because they're in a recovery program for a year, is how bad they want to get out and how much of a rush they are to get out because they are the sole providers for their family. So I wanted to ask the men, I wanted to ask Threat and Thomas how it did impact you going in and what your circumstance was with your family at the time that you were incarcerated. And then when you came out, what it was like to encounter your family again and how you worked on rebuilding those relationships.
Good question.
I'll go ahead. I'll start it off. What's crazy is 6 months before I was released, I was scared to get out. I wanted to stay in a little longer, as sad as it may sound. And it's because I had so much rage and so much negative stuff took place when I was in there that I was driven to do more harm when I was released than I was trying to restore and build up a community. It's like this community in my absence done so much destructive things to my family, physical violence, etc. And it's like I had a vengeance mindset that, oh, this person's going to pay, this person's going to pay, and this person's going to pay. I had a whole list of people that I was going to just run down.
The hit list.
And I was really I wanted to get out and really hurt these people. And when I was about to get released, I asked Sarge, I was like, Sarge, what can I do to prolong my release? And I realized at the moment that that's not what you want to do. You really want to get back out here to your family. And I felt extremely discouraged because I seen the harm that came to my family, and I had resentment because I wasn't there to protect nobody. So it was hard for me to look at the women in my family that went through so much negativity and so much violence in my absence as a protector, as the person that shows up for my family. I'm a man of responsibilities of 4 women in my life growing up, 2 younger sisters, my older sister, and my mom. It's like I'm in the middle of how do I protect these women and keep these women safe, at an early age? And so when I was looking at my family's face and I seen how much they've gone through, even they went through some things in my 4 years of absence. So it was hard to face them. It was hard for me to look at them and not feel like I abandoned them or I neglected them and I left them to the wolves, because when I was free, wasn't nobody doing anything like that to my family. Wasn't nobody pressing no lines with anybody in my family. And so, that was a hard moment for me. But when I got out here, I still ran from it for a while, and it was just avoidance of face and eye contact with these women in my family, and that's what I was running from the most. I wanted to be accepted by my family. I didn't care about no community accepting me. I wanted my family to really appreciate me, and they did. But I could still look in their eyes and see that they went through so much more in my absence. That I still struggle with that a little bit today, but I'm able to now grasp a hold of it, and I'm finding ways out of it. Like I said, I'm new to this now, and people know me in community for doing this stuff, but nobody know me in community for really building myself up. And so, I'm really experienced, and this is the first time I've been able to express, a sense of freedom, if you will. I feel real free, and I'm glad to share this experience on your platform. And yeah, that's what I'm at. I hope that answered the question, because I just got to thinking, outwardly, and I'm gonna just pass it to my brother Thomas, man, so he can share his piece. But
Right, you nailed it, man. Rage and anger, right?
Yeah.
Incarceration did not reform me, did not make me value my freedom. If that sounds weird, even as a veteran who had protected it, I was pissed, right? There was no education, there was no programs, there was no pay for doing a good job. It was like, right, just sit in the box. And it was like society just locked you up, threw away the key. And when I came out, it was kind of that moment where my family had completely abandoned me. I had completely destroyed the relationship with my biological sisters, still 10 years later, still trying to repair. And it feels weird, right? I said it so many times that loving myself feels guilty, right? The positive affirmation that I'm worthy of someone else's love, right? I feel I'm worthy to give my son attention and threat attention and anyone's kid's attention, right? But not myself, right? I can give my lady a spa day. I sure in the hell won't be going there. I can give my lady a mental health day, take care of the kids and get them out of the house and go do fun stuff so she can chill, but not for me, right? And it feels so weird to stare in that mirror and say, man, you've done a good job. You've come so far, right? And to start focusing on the things that I appreciate, that I love. And then, trying to uphold like that image, right? And Thread has mentioned it many times, like where I came from, the image of who I was supposed to be, and where I'm going now is a completely different image. And trying to rationalize those two as you walk down that path is crazy, right? And you feel guilty once again. But, it takes a different person. And I really praise Threat. I really praise Ben Feldbush. They were really heavy in student government at the time. And I remember walking one late night, just shooting the shit with Ben. And I'm like, man, I really want to start this sense of community, right? I want to feel that brotherhood that I felt in the military, that camaraderie. And I got this idea, some student veterans Tacoma Community College, but I'm not sure how to do it. He's like, and Ben at the time was vice president of student government. He was like, bro, just do it. Just put all the paperwork together, just sit down and just do it. And I'll forever be grateful of Ben's suggestion, Ben's pushing me, Ben's love for me wanting to build community, because that's the spark that started the whole fire the last 10 years. And it was that unapologetic, just go do it for you, man.
And I love that. Just go do it for you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just rip the damn Band-Aid off. Go ahead and do it. Run around. And entrepreneurship is ghetto. Okay?
Really?
But it's fun in the ghetto sometimes. It's fun in the ghetto. You go, you running around. Remember in the ghetto, the fire hydrant is off and you running around, you flipping on mattresses. I don't know what y'all experience was, but it is what it is. But you get out of your heads, and because you're your worst critic. You're your worst enemy. It doesn't matter what we thought. And and it is at one time I cared so much about what people thought. And that was the wrong thing to do because I was the one that was up late night. You're the one up late night. You're doing the work. You're doing the sacrificing. And if you can go and give your time to people, your gift, talents, and skills, give it to yourself, man. It's okay. Like you said, I can get the kids and my wife go for a day and whatnot. And we're getting to the point that we're learning to do that for you, because this is what happens sometimes, you guys. And correct me at any given time, you two, please correct me, because that's the way of you educating us. And then I'll go tell the girls, okay? We need somebody to speak for the trees, okay?
Ebony, you said it earlier, like the nurturing, the loving, right? Like I needed that. I thought I got that from my parents. For my mother, I was raised by a single mom and a sister, right? I thought I had that female energy, that I understood females, and the only thing I wanted to do was provide, right? The only thing I wanted to do was be trusted. And it wasn't until I met my new significant other about 10 years ago that it was like, I don't care what was in your path. I don't care what's in your future. You're enough. You're worthy. Right. And that had a whole paradigm shift where I was like, oh, damn, they care about me. They care about if I eat, instead of me worrying about if kids eat or if she eats or if there's food in the refrigerator. Like, she's like, I'll make anything. The stuff's there. I'll make it for you. I'll figure it out. Right. And that was a whole different mind shift. Like, whoa, I don't have to worry about my mom and my sister and my kids and my lady. And she's worrying about me.
And that's a beautiful thing. You need that. I love to cater to my husband. I love to cater to this man and make him feel good. And then, sometimes you guys do this. Hey, baby, what you want for your birthday? Oh, I got everything I need. I don't need nothing. What you want for Father's Day? I don't need nothing. I got everything I need. What you want for Christmas? Stop telling us y'all don't need nothing. Because you do.
Yeah, for real.
Say what you want. Say it. Because most likely we spending our money and we spending your money. Okay? So just say what you want. It's okay. I don't know where, and I get it. Boys are taught, when boys are little, we teach them to, play with the cars and be rough. We teach little boys to tear shit up. And then we teach the girls to nurture and cook and take care of the family. And there's nothing wrong with us teaching our young men that. Like I was on my boys, like, y'all not gonna be no nasty husbands. Okay. You're not going to, you have to clean up behind yourself. I don't call their rooms, their bedrooms. These are your houses. They got a mailbox outside their door. I'm teaching you independence and responsibility. So I love that you said that. And Thomas, there was a big difference when you were incarcerated of how you were treated and how other inmates were treated. Mm-hmm. Could you talk on that for a second there?
Yeah, so, I think a big focus for my incarceration was my veteran status, right? It was a really big thing in my family, right? I came home. I joined from 2001 after the 9/11 attacks and served 6 years honorably. Was discharged and was broken, right? Tried to find my purpose in life for the next 7 years. Well, a lot of people attribute that honorful service, that really upstanding citizen to a veteran. And when I became formally incarcerated, I used to do that job. I used to be the SWAT team member kicking in your door, arresting you, and then exfilling you back to a detention center just to turn around and go get more bad guys. And so when I'm on the inside and the same people I had served with or had known in the military are on the outside of my door, locking it up, looking through the window, it was that double-edged sword, right? You're a felon. You're convicted. So when I released to my family, it was, you had to pick a card. Either I'm this war hero, this honorably served person who would save the life, or I was this formerly incarcerated piece of shit that you never wanted anything to do with, right? And that was the differential treatment. That was hard. That was hard to get to, right? Because others in my family who had been formerly incarcerated, it was like they already wrote them off, right? Like they're the bad guys, right? But now you have the good guy and the bad guy all in one. So then how do you treat them? person. And that's always been an interesting dichotomy when I introduce myself as a veteran and a formerly incarcerated person, because you have, I go back to, my time in county. How did this me? How is this incarcerated person me? Because I had this image of what incarcerated people were, these bad guys. And yet here I was.
And thank you for sharing that. The threat, same question.
Could you ask it again, please?
Oh, no problem. Your time being incarcerated, was there a difference in the way that you were treated because of your status? You came in with a street status, like you were well known. You already had a reputation. So how were you treated different than other people incarcerated, and or did you get the same treatment as everybody else?
Nah, I was a bit different, because prior to me going to prison, I was heavy on dope. I was a cokehead, sherm head, acid. I was on everything. So I had lost so much weight. I didn't realize how my size was until I got incarcerated. When I put the drugs down and I let everything go and I started eating better, out of weight. And so then I started to realize, but dang, I'm way bigger than what I thought I was. And so I'm inside now at 21, 6'4", went from 6'4", 180 pounds. Now I'm 6'4", 270 pounds. And I still got the mind of an aggressive young dude. So I was a bit of a nuisance for the most part, loud. People gave me the handle Danger. So they didn't call me Threat on the inside. They called me Danger, because I was just that dude, and so people respected me more, based on my personality. And, I interacted with whoever I wanted to interact with. And on the inside, stuff's happened so much on the streets that I stopped gangbanging. I can't not be acknowledged from what session I come from, and what factor that people recognize me from on the streets. Oh, that's Threat from so-and-so. I can never that'll never go nowhere. But how I interact with where I represent became my new thing. So I stopped gangbanging on the inside. And a few people told me, I got brothers that's doing life sentences, they're saying, bro, we in here for the rest of our life on this gangster stuff. You know what I'm saying? So to hear somebody tell us that you're just done with it, it's like, and I'm like, man, look, I'll catch all 3 strikes. I ain't got no strike on my record, and I'll get all 3 of my strikes if anybody think that they finna just not respect my mind. And it took one of my closest homeboys that came. He was serving a life sentence. Well, he was serving an extensive stay for a murder charge. And he came to me and he was like, man, they say that you ain't giving cats love no more. And I was like, I'm not, bro. And I said, and however y'all feel about that, my guy, I don't even really care. He was like, as a man, Threat, bro, I respect you. And for me to hear him tell me that solidified my grounds on. I was staying firm on what I believe anyway, but for me to hear a person like him say, I respect you on that, bro. And when you get out, try to do something, reach my son. And I ended up reaching his son years later and didn't even know it. But I did, you know what I'm saying? And so my experience on the inside, I got so much more respect for myself and what I was becoming, because I seen some people that see me when I got out, and they was like, dang. And I was like, what's up, bro? They was like, they was like, bro, I thought you was dead.
Wow.
He was gonna be alive on the way out, because the way that operating on the inside, bro, and it's like several people that told me that, man, I ain't think you're gonna be alive, bro. I'm surprised to see that you're here, but I'm glad to see you doing the work. And so that just showed me something, that people viewed me differently than how I was feeling about myself. I felt confident in myself and I felt like I was gonna do a lot of things, but they seen the opposite. They was like, bro, yeah, life living is the last thing I would have expected you to be doing. And so when I took hold of that, the duality, like Thomas was saying, I was perceived as one person, but I knew in my heart I was this person. And both of these things are living in one thing. I'm becoming one person, submerged with both my negative and my positive. So now I got charge, now I got a pulse, because I can balance, no regrets. I can balance where I come from and that lived experience and what I know I'm capable of becoming, who I am, and to be able to put both of those things together. And I don't think nobody can put it together better than us putting ourselves together, because this is our trauma. These are the solutions. And if we can fuse them together, which is a complex thing to put both that negative, like what Thomas was saying, a veteran that represents everything good and a criminal that represents everything bad. How do you, because they belong together. This is a marriage.
Yeah.
Have one without the other. How do you fuse these things together? And to be able to do it, it is a work of art, and it is a unique person to do so. And knowing that it can be done, because I see brothers that are lived examples of it, it's doable. So that was my experience. People gave me space because I was willing to crash out. I was willing to lose everything. When people was fighting to get out, people was fighting for their freedom, and they was fighting on their appeals. And I'm like, man, I don't care about nothing, bro. We can all die up in here, homie. And so that mindset say, yeah, well, you got issues, bro. So that saved me a lot, honestly. That saved me from dealing with extra stuff. But that was my experience, man, and I hold dear to that experience to this day. And it's something I reflect on constantly, in appreciations that I didn't get killed, or nothing did happen to me when I got out. And the brothers that see me now, they truly respect the person I've become.
Thank you, Threat, for that. Angie, can I ask one more question? Is that okay?
That's fine. And I just had, after you ask your question, I had something that I wanted to highlight. Go for it.
Okay. Because I know that Thomas, he's a busy man, I'll make sure I give him the shine that he deserves. And this question is for both of y'all, but I'm gonna go with you, Thomas. What is one thing that has hurt your mental health, or is hurting your mental health right now or in the past? And how can we, as your community or your family or your spouse, can help you in that area? And I just really want to give you guys to be frank with us to talk about this, if this is something that you're comfortable talking about. And if not, you can pass. It's all right.
Pass. Absolutely.
Oh no, absolutely. I want to pound this on the head, and I hope so many people are listening. Housing. I was denied housing for 7 years. I was an upstanding citizen after I got out of prison, right? Did everything I could to give back to my community, to get educated, selflessly serve others for 7+ years. I tell a story about how I rose and created nonprofits, been the leader of other nonprofits, graduated college with my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, which was my third degree. And how my very last year, when I lost my son, was running up on my 7 years out of prison, and I couldn't put my name on the rental lease that was being renewed and where I was staying for the last 5 years. I was couch surfing. I was under the radar. I was a non-existent human. And at the same time, I'd been working a job for about 2.5 years at the University of Washington, Office of the Registrar, serving other students. And the housing market hit in 2021, right after COVID. I had my veteran benefits, luckily, and I bought a house. I bought a $500,000 house in which I'm sitting in today. I had saved up to, tuition assistance that I had saved ever since the time I met Threat Brown at Tacoma Community College all the way to now. And I tell that story because I was able to graduate the University of Washington, Tacoma at one of the top of my class, as a nonprofit leader in the community, and buy a $500,000 home before I can even put my name on it to lease as a formerly incarcerated person. And at the same time, I was getting denied life insurance, automotive insurance, all because I was formerly incarcerated, and that's a liability to insurance companies. So I think for me, when we release an individual completed of their sentence, right? There's so many barriers that we carry for the next 7 years. Housing was one of them, right? Trying to get a job was another, and just having just the basic necessity of food, house, and life, right? Those things were in survival mode. And we talked about it earlier on like how that actually feels when I bought a house, how that actually felt when I had to or helped lead House Bill 1078 to automatic voter restoration rights here in Washington State, and to get that voter card sitting in this house going, holy shit, It did it. And it wasn't just me that did it, right? It was people like Threat, people like Ben, other formerly incarcerated men, women, and children that were like, I see all this bullshit that y'all trying to push on me. I've already served my time. I want to go in this direction, but you put these little walls in front of me. I got to climb over or go under or go around. And sometimes there's no words, right? Sometimes it's Hebrew on the wall, and none of us know what the hell it means. But we'll sit there for hours, and it takes that unique person to put it together. And for me, it was housing. If society would have been like, hey, they did their time. Let's get them into housing. Let's get them into a supportive structure where they can build that community, where they can form that sense of belonging. That would have changed dynamically in my life.
Thank you for that, Tom. I appreciate you sharing that. And I just learned something I was not aware at all. Is it after 7 years, you can start to apply for housing and stuff like that? Or does this felony carry with you for the rest of your life?
It truly depends. A lot of state jobs. I work for the state. We don't do background checks for a lot of our jobs. About 93% of our jobs, we ban the box. But for a lot of states and individuals, 7 years is kind of like the cutoff. You go to apply for anything. Have you been convicted of a felony or gross misdemeanor within the last 7 years? Mm-hmm. Right. So there's that carrying of the weight. So, you could do 20 years in prison. Right. And then once you get out of that 20, you're not having to mark that 7-year box. Right. It's the people that are like 5 years in prison and they release, they still got that last 2 to go. Well, they're hammered in society and they got to carry that weight. A lot of that anxiety, I felt the same way Threat did. And it's ironic, a lot of people are like, man, you went to prison. First thing you want to do is get out. Well, if you don't know where you're getting out to and everything's gone, all the support systems are there. You throw them. Right? Baby bird, throw them off the nest. You have no idea where you're going. So that trying to buy that time to align those resources and get past some of the barriers, totally understand why people are trying to figure out their life inside of prison rather than outside, because it's 10 times harder.
Well, Thomas, I'm proud of you, man. I am proud of you. You better do the damn thing and keep on doing it. Don't ain't nothing that can stop you, baby. Listen. You are what it is, and I'm glad because you are one of a few who has actually done this, or maybe it's just not being publicized. The revolution is not being publicized, but
success is not televised.
Yeah, it's not televised. I do want you to tell us about your incredible businesses and the things and the upcoming events that you got going on as well.
Wait, can we pause before we go there?
Yeah.
Did Threat get to answer the question too?
No.
Can you repeat it for him?
Oh, yeah. Threat, what has been something that has hurt your mental health in the past or in the present? And how can we go about supporting you? How can your village and those people around you support you and help you in the healing process so you can become a better you?
Yeah, great. My biggest thing now is I'm fighting something, and I have to eliminate this, whatever it is, it's not a barrier because, a barrier is something that prevents whatever this obstacle is, I'm fighting, I'm faced with it. And I don't think nobody understand the dynamics of it because it's mine, and, the thing that I would want the most to keep me grounded is, for one, to, like what you said, especially when it comes to the women in my life, to remain in your femininity, stay in your femininity, because if I'm dealing with this animal that I got to break down, I don't want to turn around and have to, deal with any of that, the extra, telling me that one of the scriptures when Christ was dealing with his hour to come, and everybody kept saying, stop thinking like that. And the first thing he said was, behind me, Satan, right? And so I'm whatever I'm dealing with, I got to do this. And a lot of the times, like what you said, like a lot of women come through, let me help and it's like at this particular moment, the only help that you can do is try to find foundation in yourself, try to be cool with yourself. So that's one less thing that I have to worry about. Give me one thing to worry about, that's one of the things that I know that I need the most right now. If whether it's family, friends, the women in my life, or whoever, whatever it is, give me give me a moment to not have to worry about your safety. If you're around me, then you should feel safe. You should want to feel safe if you're around me. And if you believe in me the way that a person said that they believe in me, then you should know that I have to overcome this situation in order for me to be able to be the better version of myself. Because, you know, I'm fighting with something right now for the first time, you know, like being transparent, you know, this new space that I'm in. We come from a space of, you know, normalizing gun violence, shootouts, drive-by, get killed and things. That's a different scenario versus you trying to live yourself. You trying to fight yourself now, you know. Now I'm the drive-by, I'm the gangbanging on self, I'm the trauma that I got to deal with. And for the last 4 days, you know, I've been waking up in my room confused, you know, like what the hell's happening, you know, and it's a lot that's happening at one time. And this is me really finding myself, you know, and for a person to say, you know, don't think too hard about it. It's like, nah, look, let me think however I got to think about it because I got to complete this. And I've been waking up confused. And why I say this, because I wake up, I've been asking myself, and I know, Thomas, you can understand what I'm saying. I feel like, I'm like, damn, did I just kill somebody? Is somebody in the room trying to kill me right now? I've never had this experience a day in my life out of anything that I've been dealing with. But now that I want to focus on building myself up, I'm fighting with the version of myself that don't want to build. You know, fighting with the version of myself that don't want to transition into that better version. I've never had to deal with that. So now I'm looking at it. When I used to tell other people that were stuck in a space, I'm like, look, you can work through this. Now I'm saying, I see how a lot of these people felt, because a lot of them is like, I hear what you're saying, Threat, man, but, you know, it's like, I get the butt, bro, you know, but just, you know, move through it. And so now I'm stuck in it for the last 4 days, confused, man. I've been crying the last couple of days, man. Like, I'm, you know, like scared, you know, and it's not scared of, you know, whatever. I'm scared to become the person that I know I could become, because I got to let go of the person that I've been, because I've been comfortable with that person, and that's me. But it's the cocooning. You know, I've never done this part of my life before ever, you know, and nobody understands that. People see me in community. I'm an outgoing person. I'm full of fun, full of joy. That's because I'm contributing to the community. I want to give what the community should have. I want to share what I feel the community is missing, and I project that. So when people see me, that's what I'm offering. And now I want to offer that same thing to the version of myself that don't want to change. And so for me to feel like I killed people, I really woke up looking at my hands if I got blood. I really walked out my front yard to walk all the way down to my driveway with the flashlight in the middle of the night, seeing if there's blood stains on the floor, because I'm like, something's about to die. You know what I'm saying? And then now I understand what's dying, that old version of myself. And it's not something that it's cliche. It's not cliche. It's like, I get trauma. I get PTSD now. I get it makes me tear right now, man, because I'm like, this is new to me, and I can't say that nobody understands. I don't understand. You get what I'm saying? Even though other people do, and I help other people grasp a hold of their better versions of themselves, I'm doing it for myself right now, and what I need is for people to, one, know that I can do it. I just need you to know that I can do it, so you ain't got to worry me as much with trying to convince me that it's okay. I don't want it to be okay. I want it to be exactly what it's going to be. So, you know, because I got to be a even more vicious versions of myself to overcome the old version of myself. So just give me space, give me gracious space, and show me that I don't have to worry about your problems for a split second. And then we can get back to doing what we got to do as a collective. That's where I'm at right now with everything.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Dying to the flesh daily. Sucks when you got to kill that old person, because those motherfuckers, it's hard for them to die. They won't die.
And honestly, that was super powerful and really insightful. So I really, really just want to say that I do appreciate your transparency and letting that vulnerability come out with what you just shared, Threat. And I was thinking about something when you were talking. You know, going back to self-compassion, and we'll get into the wonderful things that you all are doing in a minute. But I think part of the self-compassion, I know, and I've tried to like not interject my own experience, because I really want to make sure that I'm being true to letting this be a space where the gentlemen get to talk. But I did want to share that while I was listening to Threat talk, that old versions of yourself do die, but something that something that Ebony and I talk about all the time is that you have to thank, part of the self-compassion is thanking old versions of yourself, because whether you were a child and you were 5, whether you were 10, whether you were 15 selling dope, whether you were 18 in prison and now you're 30 trying to figure it out, every version of yourself that you've needed to be that version to survive that situation. So part of the self-compassion is thanking those older versions of yourself, or those versions of yourself that are not versions of yourself that you need anymore. And that's part of the dying, is recognizing that, hey, thank you 5-year-old me, thank you 10-year-old me, thank you incarcerated version of me, thank you even the version of you. It's going to sound really crazy what I'm about to say, but even the version of yourself that has taken a life, whether you've done that by gun violence or selling drugs, they were all versions of you that for whatever reason you felt that you were to survive. And those old versions of yourself, part of the dying is you don't need to be those versions. Those skills that you needed to be using in that situation, they don't work anymore because you don't need them anymore. You're in a different space in your life. So part of that self-compassion is there, like you said, all of those versions of yourself, they're all part of you. They're not going anywhere. Even if you're dying to yourself or dying to those old versions, they are still part of you. And now you get to turn those, what do they say? You turn your pain into power. Now you get to turn the pain into power. Now you get to turn all those places of tragedy in your life into wellness and into, experiences and testimonies that you get to share with other people, because these stories that you guys are sharing with us and these experiences that you are sharing with us are going to be the turning point for someone else who doesn't think they can do it, who doesn't feel like they have a fire in them. And you guys are what you guys are doing is breathing fire. All those versions of yourself are fire, and they're fuel, not just for yourself, but for viewers that are watching. Maybe there are parents or family members struggling with, their sons or their nephews or those men in their life, and they just don't understand, or they're frustrated, and you guys are providing that insight. So I just wanted to really say thank you again to Threat and to Thomas for sharing that, and really just recognizing that part of that self-compassion is to thank those versions of yourself and to figure out what turning those versions of yourself into power now look like for you. And the other thing is something that Thomas had shared earlier in the conversation was about meeting a partner who at that time helped him realize that he was open to receiving that love. He was open to receiving that nurturing, and he didn't even know he was ready. And I think that that's part of it too, is being open to receive. And that's not even gender specific, but since we are talking, right, it's a men's mental health episode, is being open to receive, being in a space where it's okay to receive. It's safe to receive. It's not going to, you're not going to pillow talk and it gets thrown in your face later. You're not going to share an experience that's going to, someone's going to try to use against you later. And the most powerful thing about your story is because you're telling it, no one can use it against you because you're telling it.
What I tell you, Threat? Sorry, Angie, go ahead. I got excited.
Like your testimony, baby, is receipts. You're coming with the receipts and the lives that you are. I'm sorry, I'm just really passionate about this because it's important. And we need to talk about it more, and we need to keep having different conversations about the same thing, because people don't get it. Like Threat was saying, people don't get it. They don't understand where I'm at. Thomas is saying they don't get it, and they don't, because they're not you. And no one's going to get you because they're not you. And the only way that they're going to have any kind of an inkling is by you sharing. So everything that's being shared on this platform today is super powerful. And I do want to move now into the abundance part, because now that we are self-reflecting and having self-compassion, and now that you guys, even Thomas said it earlier, I wasn't ready. I wasn't even in the greatest space, but I was in these nonprofits. I was at the doors. I was pulling up. I was doing everything I needed to do. Threat saying I'm in the community. I'm still dealing with stuff but I'm in the community and I'm trying to do it. So, and I know one thing I will share about myself is I'm also, I also have a felony. But one of the things that I was excited about was to learn that I could travel, because a lot of people are under the assumption that because you now have this felony on your record, that you can't travel and there's things you can't do. You can't own a business. You can't do all of these things. But, and I know Threat's getting ready to go overseas and he's telling you his story. So clearly we can travel. So I just want to ask the gentleman that now that we're moving into this part of the conversation, what are some of the things that you've been able to do, maybe even surprising to you, that maybe you didn't think you could do before because now you have this mark on you? We'll start with Threat, since we've been starting with Thomas the whole time.
Sit with myself, honestly sit with myself. That's one of the best things that I've been in abundance. This new version of myself, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to be a part of its life. I'm excited to see where this new journey takes me. One of my best accomplishments that I've had so far is my first true accomplishment is completing my book. It's completing a book that I've been talking about writing since prison. That has been an amazing experience to me right now. Traveling, this is my 4th, 5th, 6th time out of the country. I'm excited about it. I've been loving to be able to do that. And I'm excited to put my feet on the ground, man, and really do myself, really see what this experience can bring me. I was crying, texting to my brother Malik Banks last night, about, I told him, I said, nephew, I'm lost, bro. You get what I'm saying? I feel stuck, and you are somebody that I can look up to, Now, this is a young man, you know what I'm saying? And
Shout out to Malik. He's an excellent young man. I've met Malik a few times.
Dude, and what Malik can tell me in return is, bro, everything that I've been on, don't you know you've been training wheels this whole time in my process? So I'm really talking to myself to a degree when I'm talking to the better version of myself, So now I'm able to get it poured back into me, like nobody else can, you know what I'm saying? So, there's no limitations to what we want to do. There's no excuses. There's no victim card pulling, I can be what I want to be. I can do how I want to do it. I don't create no limitations. No, I don't have no expectations of what does success look like. Either I'm going to be the version of myself where I'm not, and there's nothing that's going to stop me from getting there. It's dealing with my new fears. My new fears is I don't know what this is going to look like, but I know I'm not going to sit back and ponder on what it would have been. I'm going to just be proactive with everything that I want to do. And really building a relationship with my son. That's my newest thing, because there's a splice between me and my son's relationship. It's a 16-year-old young man. He's 6'5", 200, 300 some pounds. You get what I'm saying? And me and him don't communicate as often as we should. And we create that avenue for us to make sure that we can build this rapport, because that is the better version of me to a degree. That's my go-to, and I want to see what that relationship looks like. So we can patch anything that's been a hole. We can stitch up anything that's been torn. We can mend anything that needs to be mended. We can create anything that hasn't been created, and we can rebuild anything that's been broken. So all of these things is nuanced, and all of these things has a positive to every negative. And so I'm tapping into the positive. And anybody that's listening, don't be that version of yourself that want to keep you back. If you don't want people in your business, if you don't want people to do X, Y, and Z, then start doing what you need to do for yourself. Start doing everything that you need to do to make the next step the better step. And if not, people are going to be concerned, and people are going to pry into your business because you're stagnant. Don't be stagnant, man. You push forward, you make an effort. And if you get lost, lean on one of your bros. And ladies, I'm saying this to my bros because sometimes I got to lean into my bros because they only understand what we need to be understanding as men. Nobody can help us with certain circumstances. And vulnerability goes to a certain extent because there's certain vulnerabilities that I don't want to share with the women in my lives, because this is something that they don't need to be carrying around for themselves, but I want to be carried around and dismantled in myself and then give you the better version that came from that understanding. So that's where I'm at. Living to the max is my new thing, and I want to really, really embrace that.
Thank you,
Thank you, Grant.
I love listening to Threat, everything he said. I have expectations in my mind of what success looks like, not moving fast enough. It's always slow, right? We're our worst critics. And I had to come to that point that Threat keeps hitting at, right? He talked about mentoring 3 boys. If not me, then who? And if you're listening, if not you, then who? Because I used to be that person waiting around for mentorship, for leadership, someone to give me a pass, someone to show me a way, someone to give me a hint. There's no one coming. If it's not you, then who? Right? And that attitude of gratitude of acknowledging my prior versions, right? We all just like a software update. We get all the feed that we can, and we make that information to rationalize our choices in life and to move on. And trying to journal, trying to take time to walk, travel the country, travel outside of the country, start a business, do your thing, right? It all comes from having that gratitude of putting down the rage and the anger, having the complacency against society to say they're going to do it for me, and lifting yourself up. It's not carrying it by the bootstraps, right? It's looking for your strengths, looking for your skills, and then elevating those skills within people who have the same like mind. I know that if I was like, I've never been out of the country except to Iraq and Kuwait, but I was like, hey, Threat, can I come walk with you in Portugal? Can you come show me a whole different type of life? That's not a question I could have asked any of my friends back when I was 20. But it's definitely a question I could ask for someone who's in the same mindset, who's going in the same direction that I'm trying to align that better person to. Those people exist, right? And creating that community is of people that you want to associate yourself with. So if it's people in the past, it's self-sabotage sometimes. You have to hurt yourself. You have to stab yourself. You have to blow up those bridges because some of those relationships are super unhealthy. But I guarantee once you explode some of those relationships, take back the guilt and the self-sacrifice, the relationships and the bridges that you build in the future will be 10 times wider and hold 10 times more love in your life for you to just keep going.
Well, thank you for that, Thomas. I really appreciate you sharing. And Threat, I appreciate you sharing too. We have took a lot of jewels from you guys today, and I'm grateful because I get to go back and watch the show, and you do too. If you're watching the replay, welcome, and pick up these jewels and take this information. And we're going to continue to have this platform. We're going to continue to have this space just for you, just for men. This is just for you guys. This has nothing to do with us ladies, but I'm learning a lot, and a lot of things that you guys are touching on. I see my brother in a different light. Like, it's crazy. I see him totally different. You know how you can see somebody, but I really wasn't seeing him. I was seeing how I felt about him, but I didn't see his experiences and what he unspoken things. And I don't need to talk to him about it, but I know how to continue to be a safe space for him when he needs. Thomas, you got a lot of great things going on, and I really want to highlight and showcase that as well as Threat, because God dropped the charges. Don't let your past your future. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is. Don't let your current situation determine your future. When I was in the projects and the Spires in Newark, New Jersey, I didn't wake up every day when I came down that 19th floor in that pissy ass elevator and say, oh, I'm a hood rat. Nah, just as I'm in the hood, it didn't make me a hood rat. I am a wife. I'm a business owner. I'm a mother. I'm a loving and caring person. Like, I stopped saying to myself, oh, yo, I'm from the hood. And somebody in Washington told me that. It's like, yo, stop saying, if you want to be a successful business owner or whatever you want to be, you need to change the verbiage about what you're saying to you. And when I stopped calling myself that hood chick or that hustler, things started to change. So, Thomas, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your incredible businesses, the things that you are doing, and any upcoming events.
Absolutely. I appreciate the space, and thank you all so much for this conversation. It's self-healing as well. So as I mentioned, in 2019, I lost my first son, Atticus, to premature birth. 1 in 4 women in America experience child mortality, some of the worst in the world. And I was unaware of the absolutely incredible nurses, CNAs, doctors, and staff that support individuals, especially my significant other, because it's their body, that my son came out of. And after I lost my son, you always hear in the hospitals the sounds of newborn baby, and for people that lose children, they still hear that, and it's a PTSD, it's a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I will forever be thankful of the Teddy Bear and the nonprofit organization that weaves blankets for people who have lost those children, because the very next time I came into the hospital, I got to carry my son out with those brand new baby songs. And our business, atticus-co.com, we get proceeds back from our custom DTF and soap products back to the community that supported us and back to families who have lost children. Our products are literally made with love by myself, my children, my significant other. I have a 16-year-old, about to be 17-year-old stepdaughter. And we literally just started it out of love. We founded our business this year on Mother's Day, the 5th anniversary of our son. Tragically, our son passed away January 9th. So this coming up January 9th, 2025 will be the official launch date of our business, and we hope to support our community even further.
And you just let me know, Tom, you send me the link. Send me the link now. Send me the link after the show. If anybody know me, Diva loves to support and spend money with locals. I just do. I can't give you something that God didn't give me first. So I thank you for that. And the launch January 9th. Let me know what we can do. We can come right back here on Diva Spot and have a whole session for you if you like.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Come on in here, Threat. And talk about yourself, Huns.
Yeah. Hey, man, Brother Thomas, I love you, bro. Since day one, I appreciate, the walks, the talks, just the connection, man. And it's your space right now, bro. It's reassuring. It's refreshing, and it's inspirational, bro. And so just as much as you feel like myself, my brother Bendo, and myself had an impact on your life, trust and believe, you've had a tremendous one on me. You've shown nothing but love and respect in all of our interactions, both online and offline, So I really do appreciate you, man, for you becoming that version of yourself that, is it's an example, So to be able to see that it's doable, and to be a living proof that it's doable, you know what I'm saying? Other brothers love to see that too, because, sometimes it's hard to believe that it's the outcome at the end of that obstacle, but it is. And so thank you again, bro. And I want to tell you that before we get off of here.
Thank you, bro.
So with me right now, so where I'm at, as I'm finding my new self, this new self is, it feels good. I didn't even have no anxiety attack last night. I woke up flashing a little bit, but I woke up better today because I just got my new passport back, and that was probably part of the biggest problem. I'm getting ready to leave and didn't have my passport, so I'm like overwhelmed with things. And but I got my passport back, and I'm ready to continue making these moves and stuff. My last trip to Portugal, my baby sister. I haven't talked to my baby sister in a while, and we've had not a broken, but we had a relationship that we've been building on for a long period of time. And so she ended up meeting me in Portugal, and we went to the Moorish Castle, and like, bro, I feel like crying, and I'm like, that's what's up. And so me and my sisters out here viewing and sharing the country, and that nobody from my friendship circle, my family circle, ever been wanting to travel out the country with me, but meeting my baby sister in Portugal, that was dynamic to me. And so where I'm at right now is traveling, and I encourage people to get their passports, just like what Angie was saying. These things are doable regardless of if you're a felon or not, and if you got specific felonies, there's a way around everything. If you do the work to figure it out, I'm willing to help a person figure it out. As far as my business go, the new things that I got going on right now, just as of December 3rd, I'm an official book author. I wrote my first book and published my first book December 3rd. So I'm excited about that. The first title of my book is Can Poison Be the Cure? And I come to find out is that within every problem lies the whole solution. So the book is helping us understand that we can't neglect the culture that we come from and not believe that the solution is in there. People try to get us to just denounce all the negativity like that old versions of ourselves. You can't exclude that and think that you could become a better version. You have to really unpack that truth and apply that truth of self to this new version of and so it helps people understand that, from within the culture of violence, we can find a solution, and that can poison be the cure is my thing. And it's on lulu.com. That's LULU.com. And you can just go to the search box and type in "Can Poison Be the Cure?" I would appreciate it if people support it to their best ability, and just to have a little more enlightenment about the culture that we come from and how we're viewed as negative people. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of productivity that comes from out of this so-called negative image. So go and see what we offer. And that's my first book, and that's one of my first ventures on my own. But my business is I'm a branding coach. I'm known both nationally, locally, internationally now. So if a person, especially if you're formerly incarcerated or you come from this space, if you feel that you've been stuck in community or stuck in your own lane in life and there's nothing more to offer, I'm very well rounded. I'm known in every newspaper, every news station, other platforms. I've been on the Steve Harvey show, the Trinity Broadcast Network. So I've been able to brand myself in a way that I'm acknowledged and represented in a positive aspect that people still know don't play games with me because it's still in me, not on me.
That part.
Want to become the better version of yourself when you feel stuck. That's one of the things I'm able to help coach with as I come out of myself and stuff. So I appreciate you both for giving us the opportunity to share this and do this. And man, we can do this all day. So I'm gonna dial back, but hey, keep shout outs to Diva. You know what I'm saying? Shout outs to the homie, man, and do y'all's thing, man. And anybody that's tapping in, keep tapping in. I'm gonna stop talking.
Hey, I got to give all the credit to God first, and I got to give Angie the credit. She hit me up. She said, Diva, this what I want to do. Like, you want to partner on this? She was very strategic. She was straight to the point. She knew exactly what she wanted. She laid it out. Angie sent me a whole bunch of information, which I had to go to. Shout out to ChatGPT, my favorite friend, because I summarized everything, and I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that, and we took 3 days to pray on it. We took 3 days before we walked in the door because we didn't want to do something out of line of God, what God will have for us. We're not doing it for likes. We're not doing this for fame. We don't care about being popular. We care about being effective. Absolutely. 30,000 years from now. And that's our concern. We are very passionate and concerned about rebuilding our communities and our families. And I wanted to give up this last slide, these last 2 slides here, and we're going to get out of here. Replacing old patterns with healthy habits, and that's exactly what Thomas and Threat is doing. Set boundaries with toxic individuals and behaviors. Ding, ding, ding. Develop habits that reflect the healthier life you want to create, such as open communication, emotional regulation, and self-care routines. Learn new partners, learn new parenting techniques, if applicable, to foster emotions and psychological well-being. The affirmation here is, I choose to create healthy and lasting change for myself and future generations. And last but not least, building and sustaining a new legacy. We can build all we want to, but if we ain't sustaining that thing, we're going to have to keep going back to the drawing board. Share your journey and lessons with family and your community to inspire others. Create traditions and values that align with the new positive cycle you want to pass on. Regularly reflect on to celebrate your process. Acknowledge how far you come. And here's the affirmation. I am breaking chains and I'm building a brighter future. We want to thank you guys for being here on the Glow Up Show, the Men's Mental Health Edition. We breaking the cycles of men, mental health, incarceration, and rebuilding. If you have any questions, my kings, my young kings, older kings, middle-aged kings, please reach out to these men. They can help. And ladies, let's take heed from what we learned today. We don't always have to fix everything. Ladies, we want to be fixers. We ain't fixing nothing. You just need to fix yourself and your feminine energy and make sure that he feels safe. And stop taking everything personal. If he don't say nothing to you, don't say, oh my God, is my lash crooked? Is my wig crooked? Is it not me? Am I not pretty enough? We start doing this crazy. Women are crazy. And I'm a woman, I can say that. So let's not take it personally. Let's take it professionally. Angie, I'm going to go ahead and let you take us out. Again, fellas, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so my closing thoughts are that again, men's mental health is just as important as women's mental health, and we want to make sure that we are creating a space and resources, right? Being resources for ourselves and for other people, and also sharing community resources. Ebony, I know you're in Texas. The gentleman and I are in Washington, and then I know that your brother Corey is in Kansas. So I was able to go ahead and do some research and pull some resources from each of those states, you know, speaking of post-incarceration and mental health help. So what I'll do is after we post this, I'll go ahead and I'll share those resources underneath the post. So if anybody's wanting to get in touch with those agencies just to have a start, then you can do that, because the resources are very important. And I do want to thank the gentleman again for being here and honoring their stories and sharing with us and being willing to come on. And again, we will have multiple conversations about this. And so I am proud of you guys. I love you guys, and keep doing what you're doing, and keep spreading the good news, and keep being examples. Keep leading by example.
Man, we love y'all.
We love y'all.
Well, thank you. Give yourself grace and make sure you hold your space. It's your girl, Diva Ebony B. You're now tuned in live to the Glow Up Show, Men's Mental Health Edition. We'll see you guys soon.